What addiction is the hardest to quit? Story 1. Fentanyl was. I was hooked on heroin for years and transitioned to fentanyl because it was more bang for my buck. It cost way more, but I needed so little that it would last. I got in trouble and then needed to get clean, but when I started to get clean my first few weeks, I prayed for death. I lost 25 pounds in 9 days and laid there praying for it all to be over. I wasn't even able to stand upright for almost a month without passing out. It was so bad. I am happy to say that I am 611 days sober and I haven't looked back. It took a lot of encouragement, resources, and prayer to make it this far. I prayed for a new life for years, and I finally have one. Yay! 11 years clean from opiates and benzos here. It only gets better, I promise. I promise, I promise, I promise. Every day is better than the last. It took a couple of years for my brain to recover, no joke. But I am naturally happy and giddy every day. I embrace the silliness in life every single day. I'm proud of you. Stay strong and don't ever forget to congratulate yourself for getting clean. Yay! Coming off of fentanyl and staying off of fentanyl has been the hardest battle of my life. I laid on my mom's couch for a week, feeling every single bone in my body scrape on my skin, waiting for a rehab to get an available bed. I went into rehab on day 9 of withdrawals. They continued for about 2 weeks. Remembering that feeling is enough to make me never want to touch it again. I entered rehab at 105 pounds. I left at 140 pounds. Today, I am 516 days sober from fentanyl. Luckily, I kicked hard opiates before fentanyl was so easy to track down, and like even literally tonight, I have nothing going on and a lot of stress hanging over my head, and all I can think about is how great something properly hard would feel. But settled on, still bad, half a bottle of Jack and a lot of frustration, but after going cold turkey 12 years ago, at least I can remember that I'm making the right choice to just sit here and not mess around with that. But yeah, as someone honestly still itching for the less evil drug even today, I'm proud of you, man. Stick to it. You're making the right choice. Story 2. Heroin. Even decades recovered heroin addicts still admit they think about the high with some frequency. It's the ultimate dump of all the happy chemicals at once. You could be soaking wet in the freezing cold, but as soon as those chemicals hit, you may as well be a billionaire on a tropical beach being hugged by a warm blanket and a feeling of bliss you'll probably never reach naturally. It's literally life's happy button, but pressing it means you suffer twice as much as you enjoy it. The highs are super high, but the lows are the pits of hell. 10 years clean and still know that the answer to all of my stress and worries is heroin. I'll never touch it again, but I know I'll always be an addict. I also know I can get addicted to anything habit-forming and have to both watch myself and trust my friends and family when they have concerns. Recovery takes humility. There's this old interview with Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones where the guy doing the interview asks him what he misses most about the old days. Not missing a beat, Keith says, "Heroin." I think the interviewer was searching for an answer about the nostalgia of smaller clubs and the movements of the 60s and 70s, but Keith kept it short and sweet. He misses heroin the most. I can relate as someone in recovery myself. I can only imagine the luxurious depravity of a rock star addict. How he's still alive is anyone's guess. He belongs in a museum. At 14 years old, I had a medical issue that required a strong push of IV morphine, heroin's weaker cousin. I've never had it again or anything stronger since. I still think about that feeling 26 years later. As a result, I've always had great sympathy for those struggling with heroin. Several years ago, I was in a serious car accident resulting in a hospital stay and major pain. They gave me fentanyl to manage it, and after the first dose wore off, I told the doctor/nurse to never give me that again. Never, before that point, had I really grasped how people could become addicted to drugs. But that sense of euphoria was otherworldly and it scared me. It's been almost 10 years since that day and I still vividly remember what that felt like. Story 3. Quitting smoking was probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life, and I tried many times before I finally succeeded. But I haven't had a cigarette in 25 years now and I smoked for 25 years. I'm currently trying to quit and it's rough as hell. Going a few days without nicotine makes you feel like you're really thirsty, and it makes me squirm thinking about it. I've tried to quit several times, keep track of how much money I'd be saving, think about the health benefits, etc., but when I get stressed out, which is always, I think about the blissful feeling of taking a drag and slowly letting it out. I love it and hate it so much. Cocaine was hard. Booze was harder. Cancer sticks were the hardest. Took me 2 solid years of trying to quit. I'd go 2 to 3 days, then have a whole pack. I finally waited until I got the flu really bad, and haven't smoked a cigarette in 2,256 days. According to my app, that's 31,578 cigarettes not smoked, and over $200,000 not spent. The last pack I purchased was over $1,750 here in California. A woman I know is gorgeous, a healthy nut, and not at all a smoker. She smoked in her 20s for only a few years and is now in her early 50s, but looks 30 due to her lifelong healthy lifestyle. Notwithstanding a couple of years of smoking in her youth, she says she still, to this day, often gets the urge to smoke even though she thinks it's disgusting. She even dreams that she is smoking. She says all she has to do is wait 10 seconds and the urge passes. But that is a powerful addiction. Story 4. Eating disorders. You have to deal with your substance for the rest of your life. Not discounting any other addictions, but I've always thought EDs are probably one of the hardest. If someone chooses, they can never be about their DOC, but you have to eat, and you can't eat. So it's not about abstaining, but control, and that has to be so freaking complicated. Yep, both undereating and overeating. Both my parents are obese. I watched them all my life growing up trying to make a change, but it's so hard. Like many people are saying, you can't quit food altogether, so trying to control it is the tricky part. And often I feel that when they make a mishap in eating healthier, they give up because the damage has been done. It's an endless cycle. So trying to control it is the tricky part, and often I feel that when they make a mishap in eating healthier, they give up because the damage has been done. It's an endless cycle. On the other hand, I've watched my sister deal with anorexia. That crap is no joke. Obesity is one thing, but often dying from it takes a long time. Anorexia, on the other hand, can happen in a few months. It's insane, and from what I've seen, anorexia and similar disorders have a much larger effect on the mind. I mean, my parents act normally, lol, but when my sister was really bad, she was another person. It was not her. Both of them are addictions in a way. Addiction to food and addiction to looking slimmer and seeing the number on the scale go down. And because you still have to address your enemy every day, I still think eating disorders are one of the hardest addictions to overcome. Story 5. Procrastination. The rush of leaving everything to the last minute is weirdly addictive. I've tried everything from planners to therapy, but my brain still loves that last-minute panic. I was diagnosed late and am now medicated. It does not help this. I've recognized its task initiation more than liking the rush. It's weird my brain made up. I just like feeling stressed and proud with a final product, when in reality, it just was a hard time starting. Did getting medicated help you to stop procrastinating? I'm thinking about starting because I cannot focus on anything at work and my boss is very hands-on, so it's easy to procrastinate. I noticed when I take my medication, I have to be very intentional about what I'm doing. If I'm sitting on my phone and my meds hit, I want to be on it all freaking day. I take mine when I get to work right away, so when it hits, I'm already doing morning tasks, and it absolutely makes a difference for me. Building healthy habits, though, is definitely important. I'm still struggling with that part, but my meds have 1000% helped when I'm being intentional. I also have a very hands-off boss. I am our COO's admin and office bitch. I call myself that. So my days are always so different, which is amazing for my ADHD, but also can be terrible when I'm not feeling it, LMAO. I make a to-do list every day in my planner and use my Gmail calendar to time block events, so I remember when it pops up. Try some different things and find what works. You can PM me as well. I use a variation of a few things, so I don't miss something, and I'd say I'm about 90% at it now. Story 6. Emotional eating. Been struggling with it since I was 12. The worst part is, you can't just quit food cold turkey like other addictions. People have lots of advice about food and diet, but they fundamentally misunderstand the emotional component of relying on food for comfort. When you have no way to emotionally regulate, the only obvious and easily learned option is to overeat. Overeating forces your body out of the fight or flight response into the rest/digest response. It releases hormones to aid digestion and ignore the distress experience. Insulin spikes in the body, relaxation hormones promote rest to accommodate all the work your body has to do to digest the feast, and blood leaves your extremities and is directed towards your gut for more effective nutritional extraction. It works amazingly well. However, it can quickly create an intense reliance because of its physiological power, and often those without alternative coping skills struggle to identify new ones by themselves. Without therapeutic help, the problem to address isn't the food, it's the emotional regulation strategies. Therapy can help with that, and once you have other tools to reach for instead of food, you can improve. I hate that it's the only vice you can't just quit. People don't understand how difficult it is to have to moderate your addiction for the rest of your life. I've been gaining weight steadily for the last few years and keep asking my doctor for help to get rid of my intrusive food thoughts, but all they say is eat less. That's like asking an alcoholic to continue to have 3 drinks a day for the rest of their life, but never more than that. It sounds like an absurd request of an alcoholic, but if you can't do that with meals, then you don't need help, you just don't have enough willpower. I got a vitamin panel test that included vitamin D and vitamin B12. Turns out I was on the low end of barely acceptable for both of them. I started taking a D3 supplement in the morning and another at night. I take B complex in the morning and B12 at night. After about 2 to 3 weeks, I noticed my cravings slowed, then stopped. I think the vitamin deficiency drove food cravings, resulting in a voracious appetite. Suddenly, I don't even feel hunger cravings at normal times. So now, I wait until the hunger pangs are hardcore before eating, and I have the ability to hold off. Before, it was absolutely a strong craving, but now I can wait. So, get your vitamin levels checked. If they are low, a supplement can correct that. It will take a few weeks for the majority of your cells to get reapplied. But at that point, they will stop begging for a ton of food just to get a little D and B12 necessary for cell metabolism. Story 7. Short-form content like YouTube Shorts and Reels are my new issue. One moment you're watching a handful of them, next thing you know you haven't moved in 48 minutes, and it's dark outside. It's really like hypnotism. I put a daily 20-minute limit on Instagram. The app will be locked for the rest of the day, and I clicked not interested on multiple YouTube Shorts, so they won't be shown in my feed at all. I still watch YouTube, but only longer videos. I highly suggest trying this out. I no longer mindlessly refresh different feeds and doom scroll my day away. I recently realized that literally any time I'm not doing something in a game, I'm on my phone scrolling through feeds. I have literally 5 seconds between respawning in a game and my phone's being unlocked. Since I started putting my phone further away from myself, I've found excuses to use it and not even realize things like I need to check the time, or what if someone phones me, etc. But hey, I'll be switching to an iPhone soon, and I do find that I use iPhones less when I have them because the UI makes me really dislike using the phone. And maybe that's what I need to kick it. I have 2 tips that might help. Clear everything from your home screen except essentials, like mine are the weather, Spotify, and the calendar. Because if I open my phone and don't see the app, I'll 9 out of 10 forget that I wanted to open TikTok when I don't see the icon because it wasn't important to begin with. The other tip is to download Opal and use their deep focus sessions plus app blockers for the times you're most likely to mindlessly scroll on your phone. For me, it's usually when I wake up to check my phone. So I have Instagram blocked until after 9 a.m. to ensure I spend my mornings doing something better. You can also set limits, which I do for Reddit. It'll block Reddit for 8 hours, so I can't even look at it on my web browser or the little app library showing what's open. You'll find it annoying at first, but it'll be so helpful. I haven't opened TikTok since January, and feel it's made a huge improvement in my mental health. It becomes even more troubling when you realize how much of it is just BS and you don't even think about it. Like, I have a master's in history. Pretty much every history fun fact compilation or short is either very misleading or straight up false. But then I'll switch and be watching some science or math or literature or some other topic I'm less familiar with. And I'll just take it at face value, completely forgetting that all the videos from a topic I do know are BS. And these ones probably are too. Story 8. I think the most common addiction, which is the most difficult to get away from, would be alcohol, especially as the brain becomes dependent on ethanol. I once knew a guy that drank a bottle of whiskey a day. He tried to stop cold turkey and was on the floor not long after. 999 advised giving him a shot of whiskey as he'd become so dependent on it. He went to rehab a couple of times, continued drinking beers, and passed away from acute liver disease. He was a really nice and friendly guy, he just could not stop his addiction. I'm an alcoholic, was drinking half a bottle of bourbon a day when I quit. I had tried and failed to self-regulate and stop a number of times over several years before hitting my bottom and finally sobering up through AA. It's been 10 months and I still attend meetings and think I will for a long time. Quitting nicotine was harder though. My fiance had a friend, a female, who was drinking vodka like it was water after losing her job. She died in the most horrible way. Liver failure will shut your brain down so that you don't even care that you're sleeping on a couch in your own urine and crap. Can't/won't open the door and will refuse help. He had to get a ladder to climb onto her deck to get in. The inside of her mouth was coal black and her eyes were neon yellow. She was only in her 40s. It wasn't until after she died that he found all the empty bottles that she had hidden from him. We're still not sure how long it took. She died about a year or two after she lost her job, so it didn't take long at the rate she was consuming the vodka. I remember trying to decide about reducing my drinking. I'm so afraid of tipping over into what my cousins, grandparents, and aunt fell into. I just want to be aware when I think I'm looking forward to a White Claw at the end of the night a little too much. Overthinking it, maybe. But then I turned on the radio and 8 songs in a row about drinking her away, drinking problems away. The boss man, your cares, the breakup, and drinking is the solution. Even when it's the problem, it's the solution. And it was like, damn, how can you not think about it when it's in your face so damn much? You couldn't get away. Story 9. Sugar. 3/4 of America agrees with me. I've done drugs. I've drank alcohol to excess. And I take addictive ADHD medications. I can walk away from all of it without much difficulty. But sugar is something else. I quit smoking and my vape, which took some willpower, but I'm done with that and I don't get cravings. Sugar though? I can't stop. I get withdrawals and I find anything sweet. It's the most difficult substance for me to quit. All the others I can find something I don't like about it and zone in on that feeling, and eventually I won't care about it anymore. Sugar I freaking love. I love soda. Soda is what gets me going back every single time. I've kicked it before, but it's hard when you live with people who keep bringing it into the house. Trying to quit something while others around you aren't is going to make it a lot harder. I had a period with chocolate where I'd gotten it down to only eating a low moderate amount each day. It wasn't totally quitting, but I had it under control, and the idea was to get it to a point where I could have it on special occasions without binging, knowing how common of a thing it is, and desserts are, and the like. Then a big holiday rolled around and suddenly I was around more candy than usual. I tried hard to keep it under control even within that, but it sort of spiraled from there. The thing is, we're social beings, and we tend to mirror the actions of others to some extent, whether we mean to do it consciously or not, and that's not even getting into active peer pressure. It's rough trying to go it alone on anything, all the more so on quitting. I cut all sugar out of my diet once. First, it was almost impossible. I eventually gave up because just everything has loads of sugar in it. I could barely find anything that wasn't an absolute raw ingredient that didn't have added sugar. Second, detoxing from the sugar was miserable. I felt like absolute death for a good week before I got it out of my system. If I could just buy bread or pasta without having to do anything from scratch, I'd go back to no sugar. I felt great about it. It just wasn't realistic to maintain, and any hint of it left me feeling like crap all over again. Story 10. Benzos. The withdrawals will quite literally send you into seizures and eventually death. I was a legal addict for 12 years. Thanks, VA. After about 4 to 6 hours of missing a dose, my brain started clicking, and I wasn't even safe to drive, and couldn't put a thought together to save my life. Alcohol is the only other drug that can kill you from withdrawal. I've been taking benzos for over 10 years, not recreationally, never for the high. I started because of severe anxiety and depression. When they were first prescribed, I had no idea how dangerous they could be. Now I feel trapped. Even the thought of quitting terrifies me, especially since I've had a few seizures in the past. Unrelated, but still. Ironically, benzos help prevent them, but if I stop, the risk of seizure skyrockets. It's a vicious cycle. I feel like I'll never live a normal life because of this. My memory is completely shot. I'm just a shadow of the person I used to be. Thanks, Doc. And yeah, there's alcohol too, so I'm screwed. You forgot to mention that withdrawal can also last for months or even years, unlike the typical acute withdrawals of most substances like opioids, which lasts 4 to 14 days. And here I am, diving into the lion's den. I'm going to get access to more benzos than I'll ever need real soon, lol. I'm gonna try finding some strategies to use recreationally without the risk of addiction. I mean, there must be a way, right? Alcohol withdrawal kills you the same way and has a very similar feel to benzo withdrawal, as the part of alcohol that results in withdrawal works the same as benzos. GABA stuff. Anxiolytic. This one. 12-year prescription starting at age 12. Finally dated someone who kept expressing exactly what the heck I was doing to myself and started having trouble finding doctors to continue prescribing it. Got a doctor to give me 90 to taper off. And he told me I was experienced enough to do it on my own accord. I've done it a couple of times, but only for 3 months or so at a time, and with way fewer resources causing horrible side effects. Use it wisely. Still have some leftovers, have probably only taken 2 or 3 in the last year before procedures. Hate the way they make me feel now. The brain zaps and weird deja vu moments were the worst for me. Story 11. Food. I'm prescribed antipsychotics and opioids, and no weight loss drugs have worked, so I eat endlessly. I take quetiapine so I can sleep, otherwise I'll be up for days. That medicine makes me want to eat my entire body weight in junk food right before I go to bed. Legitimate bottomless stomach. I can probably eat 3 Thanksgiving dinners, and I won't feel full. I'm surprised I had to scroll down this far to find food. What makes it hard is that unlike cocaine or heroin or other drugs, there's no way to be completely abstinent from food. As someone who has navigated both alcoholism and binge eating disorder, in my honest opinion, finding a way to a healthy relationship with the thing is way harder than removing the thing completely. Story 12. Codependency. It's a compulsive, deeply rooted issue. For me, it was caused by my traumatic upbringing. I did so many of the things called out here: excessive drinking, TV, social media, binge eating. I was a workaholic. I was numb and needed these things to fill an endless void. By healing my trauma, I'm leaving all of that behind. Not enough people talk about how hard it is to unlearn behaviors like codependency. It's less of a learned behavior and more so a developed survival instinct. I had to learn that this was an issue on my own, despite years of therapy with dozens of different therapists who all knew my struggles. Let me say that again, my therapists didn't even address my codependency. I had to do a lot of work by myself, and it took me years to stop depending on the people around me. I still have my moments sometimes, but I'm doing much better now. Proud of you for taking those steps towards healing, my friend. I feel like I won the lottery when my friend referred me to her talk therapist. She's done her work and is what a therapist should be. She told me I was codependent during one of our first sessions, and I didn't see it at all. It took me 4 months before I had the aha moment while listening to The Best of You by the Foo Fighters. It's insanely hard. I thought that was who I was, this pushover that couldn't be full of self-hate. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I'm trying to not be so hard on myself, and I hope you are too. Unlearning this stuff takes so much time and work. So many never do it. I was one of those who thought I'd have 4 to 5 therapy sessions and be cured. Ha, sweet silly me. Thank you for your kind words. I'm proud of you too, friend. This stuff ain't easy. I feel like even just seeing these behaviors in yourself and working to fix them is huge. Story 13. Gambling. I can attest. I was hooked for a decade. It literally took over my brain. The thoughts would creep in, and before I knew it, my body was in motion, either to my computer or a casino to gamble. All juiced up with dopamine and adrenaline, and usually ending with my bank account emptied once again, feeling a profound sense of emptiness and despair. I have never been addicted to gambling, but I've seen it, and I agree with the way it looks. The secrecy and the shame and the flat-out loot that heads chew through, that this ranks highly for me. Meth addiction and gambling often dance together, and I've seen friends and family with multiple computer screens set up, playing 3 pokey screens at once in their lounge room while betting on the races. Story 14. Quitting caffeine was my toughest battle. The headaches and fatigue were brutal, but once I pushed through, I felt way better. It's wild how something so common can have such a grip on you. I've quit cigarettes, alcohol, and cocaine, but no lie, caffeine was the hardest because I used to consume more than anyone should. I made it about a month, and that month was hell of headaches and fatigue, but by the end, I just felt generally tired most of the time. I still drink caffeine daily, but I'm much more aware of how much I'm having and when I need to stop for the day. Usually about 2 to 3 cups of coffee is where I stop now, as I used to drink it the entire day, sometimes for weeks on end. Story 15, Weed for Me, was a lot harder to quit smoking weed than vaping. There's nothing I'd rather do than get stoned and sit on my phone or play video games. I got to a point where nothing I did sober was fun. Weed took all of my dopamine from all the stuff I love to do and only enjoyed doing it when high. It took like a month of pure boredom to finally get some dopamine back while sober. I'm really glad to see this here because I'm the same way. When I started smoking, I thought it wasn't a threat. I was doing it for anxiety. I told my psychiatrist, and I wasn't hiding it. I also got to the point where I couldn't even enjoy my favorite shows. There's a lot of rhetoric about weed not being as addictive as alcohol, but for me, that was misleading. I failed an exam because I took time during it to get high. I thought I needed it to be creative and successful as a writer. I kept seeing quotes from people like Seth Rogen, who said every script he has written was done while he was stoned. I thought I couldn't be sociable without it. I do believe it should be legal and that it is less harmful than alcohol generally, but I think there needs to be openness about the detriments and that it isn't just a chilled, harmless, non-addictive, healthy, giggly thing. Believe I'm going through this right now. Life's fine, but could be better. I could be working harder, training to add value to my professional role, working out more, eating better. The lure of a late Friday, Saturday night mongering out on the couch with a movie or game is always so tempting, and then chasing that feeling through the weekdays doesn't help. I am able and have previously limited it to just Friday and Saturday nights, but sometimes just spirals out of control. Thinking about packing it in to have it at home in a month when I hit a landmark birthday. Keep it purely to chill with the bros, maybe once a month or every 2 months, but do not have any in the house for the Sundays that follow. How did you break out of the cycle? Was it hard? How are you doing now? I was on a date with a girl and we smoked, and it made me overthink, and I became super socially awkward. One of the worst experiences of my life. I was so embarrassed that when I got home I threw everything away and told myself I wouldn't smoke again. It helps that I have been wanting to quit for a while. Cold turkey is the only way for me to truly quit. I've tried to ease off of it in the past, and I always found myself craving it too much and fell into the same loophole of smoking multiple times a day. Ever since I quit, I've become a lot more disciplined and want to better myself day in and day out. The boredom has definitely been tough, but boredom has sparked my creativity and my desire to achieve my goals. With smoking, I was completely content with working, then getting off of work and smoking the rest of my day away. Throwing it away and going cold turkey is what worked for me, man. Story 16. Pride and lust are dead even. Most people are addicted to pride. They always gotta be right. They always need the final say. They always want to prove their point without understanding yours. They always have to insult you for disagreeing. They always need to look the best and be the best. Every other word out of their mouth is I. When people try to swallow their pride and accept being wrong or defeated, it literally hurts us. Lust is just as hard to break. Most people just end up submitting to it. Lust is like a demon with fake knockers or something. It seems like it's bringing you pleasure, but it's always constantly secretly trying to kill you. Wow. The thing about pride really puts things into perspective for me. On the one hand, I always try to put kindness into the world and check myself, but on the other hand, it's hard to stop arguing with people on the internet. I'm going through a lot, and it's way easier to just argue with people behind a screen than find ways to actually cope with it, which takes a lot of time and error. I was raised to never express anger, so I literally have to teach myself to actually think about what is making me angry. With sadness, it's automatic that I know X happened and now I'm sad. But for the longest time, anger just felt like random mood swings, and I was wondering if my bad moods throughout the day were just a buildup of everything going on. And my mom is an abusive and angry person, so as much as I don't want to be like that at all, it's easy to start taking on those habits when you're not doing them in the same way and have no consistent influence for what's normal. It doesn't help that I have had the impulse plus stimulation from arguing plus dopamine from winning plus emotional dysregulation make it difficult to stop. By the way, this is all context, not a cop-out. Regardless of what I have going on, I make the decision to go back and forth with people. Story 17. Cigarettes are hard, but hopefully this helps one person. A few years ago, I made the switch to vaping. If you tried vaping 10 years ago, trust me, it's a whole new thing now. Those things pack a very satisfying drag. That said, the transition to vape should be very easy, also much cheaper. This will also prevent you from smelling like an ashtray. The quality of life for you and those around you increases by 1,000%. Now you're still getting nicotine, but it's odorless. As a bonus, you can do this in your house, which hopefully you weren't. Ha! And yes, vaping makes you look like a douchebag, but this is the trade-off. Step down the vape from 6 to 3 to 1.5 to 0. This might take a few months. The final step for me was vaping zero nicotine for about a month. I was going on vacation for a week and knew it would be pretty much stress-free and a whole new routine. I chose day 1 of my vacation as the day. It was weird, but not too hard actually. That was this past summer, and so happy to not be owned by nicotine anymore. I am almost 30 years old. I have been smoking cigarettes for 15 years and vaping for 10. I stopped smoking cigarettes for good 1 year ago and have been vaping since, even though I have been trying to also quit vaping. The fact that vaping is more accessible, I was so addicted to it I could never let it go. I even smoked at my desk at work in a call center. While I'm sat on the toilet, in bed watching TV, while I drive, there isn't a place where the vape isn't in my hand. The problem I have is that people think that vaping is a substitute for smoking cigarettes, but no. To be honest, personally I think vaping is freaking worse than cigarettes. In the past, I was able to quit cigarettes for a few months before I came back to it, but with vapes I have never been able to stop for more than a day before falling back in. If you're reading this, do not fall into the trap of vaping, or if you have already, just quit smoking altogether. It is hard, no doubt, but any man can do it. As of 4 months ago, I am nicotine clean, healthy and fit, and I feel the best and youngest I have ever felt in my life. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you want to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.